Yeah.
Carpet cleaning,
Yep.
which is great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you still got to drive them to get to there, to
Yeah.
even see them. And sometimes I think we have too many reviews sometimes because I think people think they're fake, and it's like
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, this isn't a toaster from China. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
these are actual human beings in Colorado Springs, leaving us reviews, but it's because we do exceptionally good work. And, you
Yeah.
take pride in that, and then you try to make that conversation happen elsewhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's jumping on the mamas groups on Facebook or the
Yeah.
social media, Instagram stuff. I mean, there's other places these conversations are occurring outside of like I shove money in the Google hole, and
Yeah.
that's just not. I mean, like I said, we do a lot in carpet cleaning revenue. We didn't spend any money this year on Google AdWords, except
Yeah.
so we only do Google AdWords in the winter.
Welcome to the Carpet Cleaner Success Podcast, a show created to inspire carpet cleaning business owners to build their own thriving residential and commercial cleaning business. Your host, John Clendenning, has built and sold successful cleaning businesses for multiple six figures over his 30-year career and is the founder of Carpet Cleaner Marketing Masters, a digital agency that turns your online marketing into a lead generation machine. Tune in as John shares proven tips, strategies, and expert interviews to help fast-track your success in the carpet cleaning industry.
Hey, well, welcome back for another exciting episode of the Carpet Cleaner Success Podcast. Today, we got a powerhouse in the industry. I've got Robert Yockel on from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I met up with Robert not that long ago. Loved his story, loved his mindset, and all the stuff that you guys hear me talking about every single week, every single month, all the master classes, all that stuff. Robert embodies, he lives, he knows, he understands. So I wanted to get him on the podcast to really sort of hammer home, share out the growth, all the stories, the trials and tribulations. And, we might not talk about the one that's happening today, but all the stuff that running these businesses
Oh,
means and how we get to the success levels that we can, because a very small percentage of our cleaning industry gets to that high success level, multi-million dollar cleaning businesses and stuff like that. And success leaves clues. We've heard that for years. So we're going to try and pick up some of those clues. So welcome to the show, Robert. I really appreciate you jumping on.
well, thanks for having me on, John. And I'm an open book. I mean, I know it's been a weird morning for me, but we can talk about that a little later too, because that's kind of part of the thing. And we even have systems in place for dumb stuff. Because that's just again, being prepared. Hope for the best and plan for the worst, so to speak. But for anybody listening, wondering what I'm talking about, we had one of our guys run a red light this morning and totaled one of our vans, and so I. That was like 15 minutes ago. So I'm just gonna get some things done, but I wasn't going to miss John's opportunity he gave me here to be on the podcast with you guys. So there you
Oh, I appreciate that. And hopefully, yeah, once we're done here, you can get that all sorted out. But again, thus, when you're business owners, yeah, we wear multiple hats and we are the, chief problem solvers and all that kind of stuff and have to build those systems around us. So speaking of that, like I always like to start off with a little bit of a snapshot of where the company is today, just what you're doing right now. And we'll get into a little bit of the story of where you came from that was, intriguing, a little heartbreaking as well. But how you've kind of grown up in this industry. But where's the business at today? Like tell us what's going on. We know Colorado Springs is about 500,000 people and plus surrounding
go.
areas. What have you built out?
So we have several branches of the business at this point. We've been kind of slowly breaking it up into categories, but the primary and the original brand is Premier Carpet Cleaning, and that's about was it 20 years old as of May. So that's doing about 2.5. And then our duct brand is only about a year and a half, 2 years old. That's HP Air Ducts. That's doing a little over 180K, give or take, right now for the year. And then we have our another brand that's just focused on the restoration. So that does the floods and the fires and the sewage and the mess, and those are more that is going to do probably about the same 2.4, 2.5 ish, give or take this year. So
And you've
somewhere
been in the restoration's only a couple of years old, right? If I recall
about 5 years ago,
five
it'll
years.
be
Yeah.
5 years in February, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
um,
very successful. There's stuff that you learned in those 20 years that allowed you to add these other things on. And we talked about that last time we chatted, just sort of like, and where you've got ideas of where you want to go next, because once you kind of figure out some of this, then you can start packing on, what do I want to do with all of this? I call that a little bit of grit to greatness, right? So we don't all come with a $200,000 business building marketing budget and just can put ourselves into an industry takeover and have like business acumen coming out of our buttholes basically and just know everything. We learn it at School of Hard Knocks. And one of those things you talked about is like 20 years with the business, 25 years in the industry, and you started off telemarketing for somebody else and then transitioned and said, hey, I should do that for myself. Let's talk a little bit about that, because again, some guys don't quite understand. They kind of try and hide behind, I hope I can have, one flyer that builds my business back in the day, or now one ad that can build my business. And it's sort of like there's got to be a lot of grit and output and learning the ropes. So let's kind of scale back to the 25 years ago and how the whole thing came to be.
Long story short, I lost my parents at a young age and I ended up being homeless. And I got a job that was in what these paper things where people used to advertise in. And it was a telemarketing position because I had a little experience in high school doing telemarketing. And so I was like, okay, and I didn't know anything about carpet cleaning. But basically over the course of my time, I ended up getting the job there. And over the course of the 4 or 5 years I was there, I was 21, by the time I left, or no, 22, excuse me. So it was about 4 years. And I'd already bought my first house with the money I'd made working there. And I just learned the process of the sales and when you're sitting there and you're doing 8 to 10 hours a day of telemarketing and you do that for 4 years, it becomes not hard to see where the sales are coming from, right? It's more about communicating with the client and spending that time and it's a long period of that, but that kind of made me capable of, like, when I said, okay, you know what, I can do this by myself. Now keep in mind, the carpet cleaning I was doing at the time was terrible, and I'll be first to admit that I was probably one of the worst carpet cleaners. I had a floor buffer and some what at the time was called coconut shampoo. Okay, it's a little
Okay.
all right. Anyway, this is very terrible carpet cleaning that I learned from a terrible place I was working at, right? And I
Yep.
also saw a lot of terrible things there. They treated their people poorly. They led through fear. They didn't lead, in a good and exciting way. So anyway, when I left that business, I jumped in the phone book. I had my floor buffer in the back of my car, and I did those calls from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. And eventually I started having things due on my schedule because I only had about $500 to work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that was my budget because everything else was saved to pay the mortgage, and so with that, I already owned a phone in my house and a phone book came in the mail for free. So let's get to work. And so that was just a process of really sticking to it. I think a lot of people, they have the strong desire to be like, oh, well, I just need to get big enough so I can hire a salesperson because nobody wants to do the sales.
Hmm.
But even to this day, 25 years later, I still consider myself the head salesperson of my business.
Interesting.
I'm the
Yeah. Yeah.
person innovating the marketing. I'm the person, I do have salespeople here. Don't get me wrong. At
Yep.
5 million, we're there, but I didn't even have a salesperson until we were over 2 million.
Yeah.
So it was always me, and it was always, I was the face, and it still am. I still go to
Yep.
networking meetings. I still, do my best to make myself a part of the community, make myself known, because people, if they know you, they're going to like and know your brand. People, they refer work to people they like, not necessarily because, you've got the flashiest, crazy looking vinyled up van that no one can read, but
Exactly.
that's just my opinion. But anyway, that's not what people call you, right? They call you because the owner's excellent or the staff's excellent. And so anyway, I spent a long time by myself. I eventually learned how to do portable carpet cleaning and actual hot water extraction, and figured all that out. Kind of once again trial and error. And then eventually I started. I got a truck mount. It was a gigantic piece of junk. I think I paid $1,500 for it, and I spent every evening fixing it. And
Yeah.
and then I bought a new one eventually, thinking, oh, what a great thing I'm doing for my business. And that was a piece of crap too. And that thing broke all the damn time. And at the time, I was going to school for engineering because I thought I wanted to do that instead. And then eventually, the cleaning business was just so busy, it didn't make sense. I was already making more than most of my peers who had graduated 2 years prior because they were going to school full time. And then at that point I started figuring how to fix the machines, and then we started building our own equipment in house, I was doing it by
That's good.
myself. And so, I was like, this doesn't make sense for me to keep going on the college route. I mean, I spent like $70,000 in cash going to school. And I was like, I'm not going to make any more money than I'm doing cleaning, so it made more sense to stick
Yeah.
with. And I really, because of my prior experience with that old business, I was convinced that I didn't want to grow the business at that time. I
Okay.
was because those people that I worked with, they created such a terrible environment. I just couldn't see past it at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't see myself doing any better than them, even though I had already done so much better than them. I mean, they'd even gone out of business after I left. I mean, I was already doing better, but in my brain, I was like, no, I'll just be on the truck, and I was, cranking about 350K a year by myself, working
Yeah.
my ass off. Okay. I mean, huge profit
Yep.
margin because I mean, I just worked out of my house. I built my own truck mounts. I'd even started making some of my own chemicals at that point because that's how cheap I was. Um, so, I just,
Thrifty. We'll call it thrifty, Robert.
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel you for that one.
fiscally responsible. And
There
so
you
I
go.
spent,
Even better.
I trimmed all that down. The marketing was wicked cheap. Everything was cheap, but everything was focused on that sales portion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's all, when I wasn't doing the work itself, I was selling the business, I was selling myself. And then eventually I was just so bloated and overworked that a buddy of mine who had been fixing his machine for free, we just kind of got to know each other in the industry. He came to me one day. He's like, Robert, I don't want to do this anymore. Do you want to take over my business? I'll sell it to you. And I was like, I don't know. And he already had an employee and I had an assistant at that point. And I finally pulled the trigger on it. He was doing like 180K a year, give or take. I bought the business for like 60,000, had a van. It was worth about
Yeah.
40, had an employee. It was a smoking deal, really, at the end of the day. So almost doubled my revenue, was able to not be on the truck as much. And that's how I got to that 2 truck phase. And then
Yeah.
after that, it was, that's a long phase. But
Yeah.
after that, we got into, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're at like 11 carpet
Yeah.
cleaning dedicated trucks now. If we're just focusing on that side of things, then, just over time, we absorbed about 13 different other businesses locally. Some of those local businesses owners now work for us because we
Wow. Yeah.
provide health insurance, we provide retirement accounts, we fix the machines, we deal with the marketing, we fix with the stupid car accidents.
Yeah.
They come back. So we had one guy, I mean, he had his own business for 22 years. He just turned 60,
Yeah.
and he retired to Florida, sold me his business for about 80,000. And he called me after about a winter of doing nothing. And he's like, Robert, I am bored to death. Can I come and work for you in the summer? And I said, yes.
That is awesome.
And we
So
and we
let's
have a bunch of people like
yeah.
that, like 5.
Let's unpack a bunch of stuff because so a lot of the again success leaves clues. I talked to a lot of carpet cleaners. So do you. I've seen you on the forums going back and looking, and I actually rechecked to see if because I remembered the name. I mean, like a decade ago, I've seen you on Clean Quip
Oh
and
yeah,
other
Clean.
ones, just answering questions and things like that, right?
Yeah,
I
I
just kind of
remember Clean
remembered the
Quip.
name
Yeah,
and yeah,
that's
and
funny. I
and,
haven't
and
heard
I got
that in
it.
a long
So yeah, and so some of the best cleaning companies that we know, some of the best entrepreneurs. Like, I mean, this is like even the Alex Hermosis of the world, the new guys, the Dan Kennedys, the Jay Abrahams, all those kind of guys. They all came from a background of either doing cold calling or door to door cold sales. They
Yep.
learned the psychology of a human to get out of their own head, to just always be marketing, always like find out what people want, how to influence, ethically, but influence and really understand that side of it. And when they take that side of it as a major part of the business and then layer a business on it, you're always kind of defaulting to what you know, which is sales solves problems, money solves problems. Let's massive imperfect action and figure it out. As opposed to waiting for the best this or the best that, and
Oh, yeah.
volume as well. Like you mentioned, like cold call 8 a.m, 8 o'clock at night. We've got some clients that, I mean, they started with auto dialers back in the day, and we're doing like, when those
I
were
had
popular in
one.
the early
I have a very
2000s.
funny story about that.
Yeah.
If
Okay,
we
we'll
have
get
time,
to, and yeah, and even door, like, the free rooms on doorsteps, but not like 100 doorsteps, 10,000 a month. They
yeah.
scaled to the point where they broke stuff, but built a business. And then the other thing that every one of the ones that I've seen that's successful, they get to a point where they start buying out competitors who think they're carpet cleaners, not marketers and salespeople of cleaning services. Because once you get that, and as you're right, like you may a couple million handed off, but it's people that people buy from. A brand is great to have as long as that brand is in the, like, especially local business, in the local marketplace, and we know who's behind it. So when you buy the other businesses, you're buying the legacy and the reputation of the guy that ran the other company. You, for 60 and 80 grand, to buy a carpet cleaning company and take that database, have it handed over well, so a lot of them come over to you, scale them up to better pricing and better packaging and other services and stuff like that. And the lifetime value you just bought is hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, of lifetime 5-10 year retainers from these clients, for somebody who's willing to sell it for the price of, maybe a brand new truck mount. Theirs is used, but you could use it, you could clean it up and sell it on Craigslist. What you really care about is that database and legacy that you can enhance. And again, you've done it 13 times now, buying other businesses, which is a great, growth lever as well. Always be selling, be in the community, and buy existing companies that are, that you can level up. So
Yeah. I mean, I've had the cheapest one I got was like $2,000. I'm not even joking.
exactly. Yeah.
And like the guy didn't even know his phone number was worth something. So I just called because he had some equipment for sale. I didn't really want the equipment. I was like, well, because he said he was moving. And I was like, what about your phone number? And he's like, oh, I don't know. It's my cell phone. I was like, cool, I'll buy your cell phone from you for $2,000. And he was like, okay. And I mean, we still track what we've gotten off of that over the years because we remarket. Obviously I don't like to tell him to tell his customers, or he or her, sorry, or they, them, whatever, that we are buying the business. I don't like that. So I always tell them, just let me have that phone number. I've got a way to transfer it. You'll know, all you got to do is sign this piece of paper. You'll never see the phone number again, and don't tell anyone anything. And so that way, when they call in, or we just answer the phone generically, hey, this is blah, how can I help you? Blah, blah, you know what I'm saying? We don't go into it. And then we go through the thing, get them lined up, and they get a text message saying Premier Carpet Cleaning's coming. And sometimes they call us back and they go, where's Bob? And I go, wait, Bob retired. He trusted me to take over the work for you guys. And, we guarantee we're going to do a great job. Look our stuff on Google. We got 3,000 5-star reviews. If you don't believe me, don't pay us. And so that way they don't get the opportunity to start thinking, well, Bob's gone, maybe I'll start looking around.
Yeah, right? No, that's great. That's a salesman's mindset right there. You've done enough to know. Don't give them something to anchor on and take them down a rabbit hole.
Don't let them even think about it. Same thing, like when you're doing restaurants or any of that kind of stuff. Like if you work with those types of facilities, never change your price, never talk to them, show up, do the work, leave. The less they think about you and the more automated they pay you, the longer you'll have that contract and the happier everybody's going to be. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's a different mindset, but that's another thought process too. So I had one guy who literally gave me his business, and cool old guy. I just knew
those are fun.
Yeah, and now he was just like, hey, I'm gonna send a postcard to all my customers, Robert. I like you very much. So I know they'll come and use you. Didn't get a single phone call. None.
Yeah.
So, but go the other way, and it's you don't bother. You're not gonna just trade them over to the new business. They don't want to. They want their old Bob or Henry or Susan or whoever they're used to talking to. Just one day they call in and a different person answers the phone, and that gives you the opportunity to close. You know what I mean? That they don't let them think about it too much. So
and I mean that's psychology. So some of the things that, like, just digging through some of your stuff that when we talked last time and then afterwards and stuff like that, like the psychology that you put behind your thought process ties in with, again, if everybody's learning from some of the smartest thought leaders, Marcus Sheridan, they ask you answer, and the whole idea of the self-service mega trend, but without discounting and commoditizing your brand. brand. Again, keeping your brand separate so that you like some of your like even that conversation, but you've got the rare restoration and the HP air ducting and stuff like keeping some of that, but personalizing it. All of these things are brilliant ideas. Like even as this, for example, I'm one of these people that hate self-booking widgets on websites because for one, it will never route the same way your office gals will, saying, hey, we got the guys are going to be over here. I'd rather put that over on Tuesday on that customer instead of the opening tomorrow. You're not going to get AI to do that. And you're not going to get a self-booking bot to give a quote that justifies your pricing, but you can give estimates and you can walk them through a gamified situation where at the end they have to opt in to get it. Now you have the opportunity to call somebody and use the actual human influence moment because they got the price and you pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I noticed you got an estimate from us. When would you like us to come over, do a quote or a cleaning? Right. And now you've got that moment. So psychology is great. Like it's just thinking through the tiny points.
Well, that's noticing the difference between lead generation, sales, marketing, prospecting. These are all different things. And they get lumped into sales, and that's not correct. And so, you can lead generate and not necessarily generate sales. And you can generate sales, but not generate enough leads, right? Or you can do marketing that doesn't do anything. So, I mean, there's a lot that you could do other than just kind of look at it from, a single standpoint. We have, a lot of guys, when I have bought them out over the years, I mean, the main conversation they have is like, oh, my ad in the newspaper and Yellow Pages just didn't work no more. And that, stuff like that. It's like, well, it's, times they are changing. I mean, this I was telling 15 years ago. I was telling people that. It's funny. And so during the end of my outbound sales telemarketing years, I was sitting around and I was because I was going to college at the same time, and then I started looking online for something, and for some reason it just occurred to me out of the blue. I was like, I wonder if anyone's searching for carpet cleaning on Google. It wasn't obvious at the time. It really wasn't. And so, and so I just typed in carpet cleaning, Colorado Springs, and there was only one guy who had a website. That was it. And I was like, okay, well, this doesn't look too hard. It was ugly HTML. This is even before cascading style sheets, any of that stuff. Like just like
early days.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to Barnes and Noble, and so I went there and I got a big ass book and I read it while I was going to college, while I was doing my telemarketing, and then the website showed up on page 1 in like 2 weeks, and because I did black hat SEO, I filled the bottom of the page just with the word carpet cleaning 7,000 times, and showed up like right away. And one day my phone started ringing, and I was like, hallelujah, you know what I mean? I had to spend so much time doing the outbound. Now, I did never stop doing the outbound though. Even after that, I kept doing it because never stop selling, right? And so eventually I got too busy to do just cold calls. So then I got an auto dialer and the website. And then I eventually the auto dialer, honestly, I just kind of got sick of it and I gave up on doing that. But then I started just calling my old customers. So, those I never stopped telemarketing, and we still do it today. So,
amazing how actually talking to your existing clientele that should be like 50, 60, 70% of any given week, month, or quarter in bookings, because they will come back if you stay in touch with them. Dan Kennedy, build a fence around them, stay in touch, tell them good stories, tell them what you're doing, get into their heads just a little bit, just enough to not like, again, be a welcome guest, not an annoying pest, all those cool things, but pick up the phone and call them. We used to call our regular clients every 3 to 4 months on a rotation. And then at the anniversary 12, and then at 18 and then 24, hey, we miss you. On top of sending them a mailing into their mailbox and text messaging when it showed up lightly and stuff like that, just let's get in front of them multiple times, because people do not make a decision from the first thing they see, and they don't make a re-decision, like the re-up that decision just on a one and done. You got to kind of treat it like the credit collection people. At first they call up and they're all nice and friendly, and then eventually becomes a little bit harder sell, and then it becomes a final notice, and then it becomes all that. Like if you can set that up in marketing, that's just psychology of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, and you just use a little bit of it and stay in touch and be real, and people go, I like my guys, and then they refer you as well. So
sorry, I have a cold.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's always been about, focusing on sales. I always said, like, I don't care if you're the world's greatest lawyer, if you don't have clients, what are you doing?
Yeah,
You
who
know what I mean?
cares?
So, I mean, you're just like happy to be sitting around with a really expensive degree, So
Yeah,
same thing with, your equipment or whatever it is you're attempting to do. I said,
yeah,
and then as you start to expand your mind a little bit in terms of, don't get me wrong, carpet cleaning is very cool, and there's a lot to know about it, and there is
yeah,
a surprisingly advanced subject, and people don't understand that. But
yeah,
there's more things to do in that house, and there's a lot more to do. And so by, providing that customer with just the same level of customer service and letting them know, hey, listen, we do this too. And if because you'd be surprised how often, we have one of our guys going, because we do sales trainings every week to, with
yep,
our full team every week. There's a Thursday morning meeting. We all go do sales trainings. I read sales books. We do captions of those books. We talk about those things. But just the things I hear is that like the customer didn't even know we did upholstery cleaning.
yeah.
Right. I
And
mean,
it's
it
on the
seems,
side of the van and every brochure you've ever sent them. And yeah, and it's like,
it's like
yeah,
right there, I mean, and
yeah,
it's also kind of obvious, but to us, it's obvious, right? Because I use my
yes,
sucky thing to suck on this other thing, why wouldn't? So, but to the
exactly.
customer, it's not,
Yeah.
so,
And but even to the technician, so what you just kind of keyed in on there, like I mean, there's just so many knowledge bombs. Hopefully, everybody's picking these up. But again, sales training for your team. Well, even if it's a team of one, do sales training because you're going to grow. You're going to get more dollars per client, happier clients. Deliver a great client experience that's consistent. So technician Tom didn't do so much better customer service experience than Jamie that showed up. They all know what it's supposed to look like to be in the house to at least deliver the premier carpet cleaning base experience. And some guys are just chattier than others and whatever. But
sure.
you train that. You have the sales training. You know when you're going to have that add-on service upsell conversation with people, whether you're doing 3 package pricing or the one price and then add on stuff. But you have it planned because now you've got a process that when you have a process that it should be done this way and you have people, when something isn't working, it is either the person not running the process or the process needs upgraded. And it's one of those two, and you can identify and fix the problem and scale to the next level. If everybody's winging it, which is most businesses, you don't know what the fixable point is, and it just becomes a mess. It becomes chaos.
Yeah. Well, the accountability is one of the hardest things to track.
Yeah.
And so, especially like in the sales world where it's not necessarily as clear as like, well, this guy's making a lot more commission. Well, it's a little bit more than that because,
Yeah.
it's a little bit, it's complicated to say like, this is the cut and dry, like this person's excellent, this one's not, I mean, I'm a firm believer, Steve Turbin, great teacher. He has the whole concept. Good enough, right? So some guys they struggle to get past that first stage of development because they're like, I need everybody that works for me to be perfect, and they need to look like me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not true. And
Yes.
but I did the same thing. I mean, when I hired my first guy, he had a couple tattoos on his arm. He had a ponytail.
Yeah.
And by the time I was like, he doesn't look like me. Like a
Yeah.
salesperson.
What are people going to think? What is my 60-year-old customer going to think?
But
Yeah.
you have to get a little past that and
Yeah.
understand that people can open their mouths, and they can do
Yeah.
this way more than, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you have tattoos all over your face, don't do that. But you're not going to be a salesperson probably, but there's definitely more that you could get out of somebody, and you can teach them, you can educate them and get them to the point where they're communicative. And like my GM now, like he was not like the greatest communicator when he first started working for me, this is like 10 years ago. And like, I worked with him, and now he's fantastic. He's a leader. He does all these things. There's so much that you can do with people when you develop the systems and you have the conversations with them, and then eventually you can kind of start to take a step back to the business itself and start to work on it as a whole. But for those first few trucks, I mean, you are the father of these people sometimes. And, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do have to draw the line somewhere. If you've bailed a guy out of jail 2 times, there's probably not the right
In the
thing
middle
to
of the
do.
night, and you're the only person he calls.
I
Yep.
have
Had
done
that.
that.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. There is, but there's a lot you can do with people, and don't, I think people struggle because they're just trying to find this perfect, beautiful sales guy to walk in their door, with big shiny teeth, and he knows everything about carpet cleaning. And well, that guy probably has his own business. I'm sorry to break it to you. So stop looking for him. And so, you know what I mean? That's just not the way it is. Everybody's a little imperfect. I'm a little imperfect. You have to, come to the door, knowing that the person on the other side is going to not necessarily be right where you need them to be, but if you put the effort in, they can be phenomenal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you do that again. You do that training. You do that ops. You keep an eye on it. Stuff like that. There are advancements in our industry, advancements in the world. Even nowadays, if it makes sense, you can get little lapel pins that record conversations, so sales guys can, you can spy on them. That's bad, but you could also have somebody say, "Hey, listen to your own conversations, run it through this triage, and find ways that you can improve." So and things like that. We're in an AI world now where you can actually record and then do some sales training back with yourself and stuff like that, or with team members if it makes sense in the business and that kind of thing. But you can just add that to an operations to say, hey, I'm gonna do the Thursday morning training, and I'm gonna add this. Now I'm gonna and when you build that team, you've got the guys that are really good at doing stretching and repairs. The other guy's not quite as much. One guy can cross train the other guy going, hey, if you want to make a little bit more commission, I'd say 20% of our jobs have some sort of repair that's needed. Here's how I explain it to them. And all of a sudden you're lifting up that other guy who didn't even know he could make that much money or get those marbles out of his mouth, and things like that. So the team starts training the team as well, which is really helpful.
Yeah, we have guys just like that. Exactly. We have the same thing going on. Like, these guys are awesome at this. These guys are awesome at this. These guys are awesome at this. And then we all get together in these meetings, and I don't just stand there and yap for an hour and a half. I let everybody talk. Because I don't have that much to say some days, honestly. I come in Thursday, I'm just like, hey, hi, everybody. But what was I going to say? We do a lot of education focus sales, education and emotional. So, we try to bring the person to a place where they understand why, and then why that's going to help them solve their problem, right?
Yep.
So that we bring that education level up, and then we bring the emotional purchase up, right?
Okay.
So an emotional purchase is like, don't get me wrong, like the last time I bought a car, which is 3 days ago, just coincidence. I don't buy cars all the time. I had a last car for 7 years, but I bought a car that was a little bit more than I would usually buy, right?
Okay.
Because you make the logical choice, but that's to justify the emotional decision, right? Because I'm trying to solve whatever this issue is in my life, and I like this idea, so you justify it, bing, 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 bing. So when we're going to do sales in a home, and the way we try to talk about it, like let's say we're trying to talk about a carpet repair, or especially urine damage, right? That's a very emotional decision. These people have struggled. Their house stinks. They know their guests come in and it smells to them too. This is an emotional thing. They called you out there to solve the problem. Why won't they pay you the extra $300 to fix it?
Yep.
Right? Because you didn't give them enough education. You didn't tell them
exactly.
You didn't get it.
And you didn't get that empathy. You didn't get on their side of the table, as they say. Whereas you're coming across, almost like, well, this stinks, I can fix it, as opposed to, hey, I'd really, be on their side of the table. Have you ever had an issue like this is solvable, and a lot
what
less.
have you done on your time to deal with? Because obviously it didn't work.
Exactly.
Whatever, you know what I mean? So, my favorite one is like, will this keep the cat from peeing here? It's like, no. But, I always like, it's a funny concept. But so we try to get them to that emotional state where they use all the information, all the logic and everything we gave them to go ahead and make that emotional and logical decision. We're not trying to trick anyone here. We're just trying to provide them the best level of service. We have a kind of a strong concept there too. We call it the cheeseburgers, right? So, so McDonald's, right? They sell more cheeseburgers than anybody in the entire world. All right. Now they have the Whopper, the Big Mac, right? The biggest, most pricey burger on the menu, and they got the dollar cheeseburger. Which one do they sell more of? The dollar cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger, yeah.
Yeah, they sell tons of these things, right? Now, do we offer the Whopper? Yes. Do I shove it down everybody's throat and only sell Whoppers? No, because there's more people who can afford dollar cheeseburgers. But I am just as willing to sell not just the Whopper. I'll sell them the Red Robin. I'll sell them the Gold Leaf cheeseburger. I'll walk in there in a white suit and gloves and look like Michael Jackson and do with the house whatever you want. Like, it's not important to me, as long as I'm getting the value to the customer that they perceive. So, so we have a wide array of how far we're willing to go, depending on what the customer wants to see. Right. So
the cool thing about that is you've got customers that will start like say again, say the 30, 20, 28, 29, 30, 31 year old, new family, new mom, new kids, on a budget, a little bit tight. They don't want to do it themselves. They don't want to rent the machine. They don't want the discount. They've kind of, you either heard some of your stuff, educated a bit, or just really understand that. You get them started. Well, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and they're hitting 40 and they're buying the furniture that's going to be the last furniture they buy. They're buying, like, the kids are a little bit older. They're not like, it's not kids spilling Kool-Aid on couches and stuff like that. You got teenagers now and stuff like that, but they get into the family room and they can make a mess there. But you've got a little bit more. And now these people that were giving you a couple $100 a year are giving you $1,000 a year because you're doing the tile floors, the bathroom tile showers, and because you brought them along with you. And they respected that as well. You can meet them where they are. You can give them the dollar cheeseburger, and then when they do grow up and they want the Big Mac or whatever, you also have that available.
Exactly.
Right?
It's all there, and we let them know that, and then that's what's part of that education, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not going to go in there and throw the kit and caboodle, Scotch guard, scrub, deep fries, and blah blah, all this stuff on a carpet that A, may not need it, or B, they don't want to pay for it. But I'll let them know if we're not doing this, we don't make that level of promise either. Because that's fair. You know what I mean? Like, just because like, I don't have to guarantee this super fancy thing when they're not paying for it.
So we'll guarantee it at this, but we're not going to guarantee. There's a trade-off, right? Like,
exactly. So, but we make sure they're aware of that. You know what I mean? Because I've gotten plenty of homes where I've just straight up turned down the work, and I tell my guys to turn down the work if we go into a process that we feel as though that they are going to be 100% dissatisfied with, if they go with level of service. And I don't want you to do that job. That is a nightmare. I want you to walk out of that house. If you can't get that person on the same education level where they understand what we are doing today is possibly going to make this worse. You need to leave because
we called it in ours a restorative cleaning waiver, where when we walked in, if the technician determined it was restorative cleaning. So think of the beaker, like if you got it, the average person has 10% of the beaker with or the carpet fiber with dirt. Think of you can take 90% of it out, and what's left is such a small smidgen that, again, a white towel test, you might get a little bit of gray on it, but it's clean. And somebody else has it full to the top, like, so it's and then 90% of that removed is still more than the first person ever had left. You can't get beyond that. So we would call it restorative cleaning and explain to them and show them like a soil density test and a couple little tricks on white towels, stuff like that, and just tell them, I need you to sign this waiver if we're going to go ahead with the job today, because what this is waiving all of our warranties and guarantees, because I am literally just going to come in loaded for bear. I'm going to get it as clean, if not cleaner, than that spot I just took out for you. But I can't guarantee perfection, and I don't know what's underneath all this dirt, all this other stuff. You could have red wine stains that I can't even see right now. So there is, we'll do twice as much work for the same price as we normally would charge, but we waive the warranties and guarantees because of that. And some people go, just go ahead. I just need it. I need it better than it is. Or you know what? No, I'm going to replace it then, or thank you for being honest. And at least you give the technician something. We gave them, again, a restorative cleaning waiver. So they now have something to say, this isn't me saying it, Mr. Technician. This is the company's policy. So they have something else they can anchor it against as well, and not feel embarrassed to have to explain a bad situation as well. So.
I do the same. We have the same kind of situation, and I will sometimes I play a dummy on the phone with people. I never tell people I own the business.
Okay.
I just it's company policy. We don't have to do it this way.
You're just not telling them I'm the one that came up with the policy, but
who set the company policy? It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? That's not the point. The point is this is our policy. So, we do very similar stuff.
So a couple things that came out of this as well is sort of like, we're talking about being available for a wider range. You definitely don't want to be anybody who's looking for the rooms in a hall for $99, that you got to educate them up to it. At least there's a base reasonable level. But having said that, the two sides of it are, one, we talked about like the modern world. So you've got to be known in the public. You've got to have those chamber members and BNIs and referral partners and interior designers and Howard Partridge 101. You got to know your the flooring stores and all that kind of stuff and be relatable. But nowadays, I even asked you, I said, so how many influencers do you have referring you? Because when I started hearing what you're doing, I'm going, Robert's definitely got influencers. And I only talked to about maybe 5%, 10%, maybe at the most, of carpet cleaning companies or home service businesses I know have even understood the local micro influencer niche that is another referral source of people that are collected around somebody who on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, who's in the local community and has eyeballs, has people that trust them. So they can try somebody out, get a free cleaning, do whatever, get a kickback if that's affiliate commission, however they want to work it. But they now call you out and you just got made aware. You're on the radar now, the awareness of thousands more homeowners that go, I thought of those guys, or I've never heard of those guys, or whatever. And now you at least get them going down your rabbit hole in your world. So interesting that you already have some of those in place and stuff like that. So when did you start the influencer game? When did you realize that there's a crowd collecting around these things?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I had somewhat of an unfair advantage. My wife is an influencer.
Yeah.
So, and so we get invited to restaurants and all this stuff. And I started seeing that we were getting, I mean, we're just going to eat places for free. They give you some cocktails or whatever. And then she, takes some pictures. So I got to take two steps back. So I started dating, this is my second wife, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I started dating her like almost 10 years ago. And I've never seen someone take pictures of their food before. I was like, all right, because we were going out to dinner. And I didn't really think, I was like, okay, sure, take a picture of your food. I don't know why you want to remember what you ate, but okay. And so, and then, she had just moved into Colorado, and then about a year or 2 years later, all of a sudden we're getting invited to all these places. And they're like, come and eat here for free, come and eat here for free, and boom, 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 boom. And then it kind of occurred to me, I was like, well, what is this? And, and then eventually I heard the term influencer. I didn't think about it at the time. This was, a while back. And then, so she started getting to know all these other influencers. I was like, hey, do they need any carpet cleaning? Because if a restaurant can do it, why can't I do it? And so that just occurred to me, and I was just like, okay, sure. And so, I just did a rug for one of them the other day. She did this big post. I mean, hard to say how many calls you get because I'm not having her. They don't do advertising. They just talk.
You just do a shout out. Yeah, just a shout out. Yeah.
It doesn't hurt. And I don't know, I can't directly correlate that to tens of thousands of dollars worth of jobs, but I can say for $150 to wash her area rug for free, she's got 20,000 followers. So
yes. It's not, at the very least, it's a good try, but it's a very good try because would she have paid you your price plus profit to do the rug cleaning? Who knows? But you're not losing that. You're gaining the fact that for a little bit of time and a little bit of solution and a satisfied purchase. It's no different than if you want a real estate agent, interior designer, any of those people to refer you. Have a chat with them, call them up, meet them at the BNI, take them out for a coffee, have that chat and say, hey, I don't even want you to refer me until you have us come to your home and do $500 worth of cleaning. I want you to see the cleaning experience. I want to see the guys rolling out the red carpet, covering the hallways, doing all the things different. And here's my guarantee that's different as well than other cleaners. If they're not happy, we'll come back and re-clean. If they're still not happy, give the money back, that kind of thing. So I want you to be 100% comfortable with us. And if you are, then take pictures while we're there, shout it out, do all that kind of stuff. And we'd really appreciate it. And some of them will say, well, I would like an affiliate or kickback commission, give them a bit of an offer, a package with their own code.
Some of them do, but
some of them, most of them don't. What I found as well is most of them don't. Most of them just
want something for free. I mean, like your cost per impression there is pennies.
Yes.
And that's, if we look at the old kind of thing of 14 touches, which is probably more like 20 nowadays, but that's a very cheap touch. And that's, so, I mean, when, especially if you're looking at Google and other things and your AdWord costs are skyrocketing, I mean, if you can just get your name in front of somebody for 10 cents, I mean,
and then I call it poles in the water because we're long gone the days of stuffing keywords at the bottom of a page in the same color as the page and getting it to rank. We're long gone the 10,000 backlinks from Russia ranking. We're long gone the mini sites. Every single keyword has its own website. Paid ads were cheap until they weren't. Facebook ads were cheap until they weren't. But if you can turn the corner, keep the clients longer. If your average job is $400-500 and the average lifetime value is $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for half of those people, trackable. And you can do that. Now you know the value of how much you can put in to buy a new customer because the long term is a little bit more. And one pole in the water might be really inexpensive. And a touch, as you said, those ZMOD, zero moment of truth, 20 impressions before they're ready to pick the product off the shelf or call the carpet cleaner. You've just added a couple more of those into that mix. They land on a website. Maybe they hear about it and they follow through and land on a website. And now you've got retargeting that follows them around for a while. And like there's all this little nuance that you can put in. Then they see the van driving by. Now now you start going into what they call your Dunbar numbers. So people can only remember about 12,000 or 1,200 sort of names and their family. They know the name and all that in the core ones, but you kind of get a general impression. And beyond that, you're just mud. They don't know who you are. So you start moving into that cognitive area where when they are ready, or in our world now of AI, where they just, you know what, Chad, I'm thinking about carpet cleaning. I got some pet stains, and they're just having this conversation, and Chat GPT, Gemini, whatever, comes up, does a brand search, does a search around social now in all the different areas. Reddit's a big one to rank in AI now, and things like that. And you've got that out there. They get 2 or 3 recommendations. They go, yeah, I've heard of Premier. Call those guys, or that's the guys I'm going to call. Thank you. Because you've tapped into a sentiment and that endorsement, and as an authority, somebody else referred you, used you. So you've started to kind of elevate your brand impression. They've seen you around, and then when they do jump into the market, then they can say, you know what, SEO is changing, pay-per-clicks change. They don't know that, but all of a sudden what they see is going to be different in different places, and they're moving to different places, but they also remember your name and they remember your brand because you showed up somewhere else in front of them as well. And those dots are, without them, you're just hoping and praying that they like the words on the page and the ad that they just saw, because it should never be about the lowest price. But done well, you are omnipresent everywhere they are, and you're just influencing them over time on all these different channels, that you just become the obvious choice, the best known cleaner in the marketplace. And then you can scale and buy these other businesses and just transfer. Hey, by the way, we also now do this. We also now do this. And now you're in the home for more services as well. And you can start stacking that on. So,
well, it's a conversational, I think, is the way it's changed now. It's not just like who shoved the most of the same thing in the same place. It's who's getting talked about the most.
Yes.
And what is and the conversations can be read now, as opposed to I just translate keywords, which is how it was. So
the intent is the sentiment and the intent, right? So questions and intent are now, AI can go, I understand that this conversation happening here on social about this brand has this intent. So I'm going to recommend them because it seems to be a positive intent across where I'm looking. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Google reviews and all that stuff are great too. I mean, we do, we got over 3,000 now. Carpet cleaner, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you still got to drive them to get to there, and see that. And, sometimes I think we have too many reviews sometimes, because I think people think they're fake, and it's like, and I'm like, no, this isn't a toaster from China. It's these are actual human beings in Colorado Springs, leaving us reviews, but it's because we do exceptionally good work, and you take pride in that, and then you try to make that conversation happen elsewhere. And sometimes that's jumping on the mamas groups on Facebook, or the social media, Instagram stuff. Or, I mean, there's other places these conversations are occurring outside of like, I shove money in the Google hole. And, that's just not, we're, like I said, we do a lot in carpet cleaning revenue. We didn't spend any money this year on Google AdWords, so we only do Google AdWords in the winter, because
and you're saying even in the evening as well, when the clicks are cheaper, because your numbers. As we always say, marketing, you get marketing right, you create an operations problem. You get operations right, we talked about this, and then you have to know your numbers and know where you're aligning things, including marketing. And that was one that I thought that was very impressive, that your numbers well enough that why should I be there when other things are working during the daytime? When it's a little bit slower, I want to pick it up, and at night, that's when the clicks are cheap, and you have a system in place. It's not just cheap clicks that are going to get a phone call to an answering machine. You also have a system in place that can now capture them, so that somebody can still influence them and give them a call and influence them tomorrow. Have a real human behind the scenes, right? So, and those are all just little, as marketing, and as business growth, and your numbers, how to plug, when to plug things in, how to plug a hole, and solve those kinds of problems. I even love like Facebook. A lot of guys go, I tried Facebook ads. They used to work. They don't work. Well, the very first thing is you got to be real, and you got to stop the scroll. So can you look like Hank Williams Jr. and sing a song? Well, Robert can, so it's like in the Facebook ads, it's like, you know what I mean? And, but that's being disruptive. It's okay to have disruptive marketing. It's okay to lie on top of your van in your pictures with reviews and stuff like that. You've got to get people's attention. And you can't be just plain Jane vanilla. You've got to stand out a bit. And these little things are ideas that help you be disruptive in the marketplace, which is one of the 7 core principles of being of surviving through all of these changes at any point, is also make sure that you're being a little unique in the marketplace with how you're showing up as well, because it's just going to catch people's attention, and it's just going to start that, again, those 20 points that they need to touch you before they go, okay, I trust these guys enough now. I've seen them around enough times and I've made enough connections.
Yeah,
So,
well, and I think a lot of guys, especially in like one truck operation, guys, they make the mistake to think, well, I'm gonna, vinyl wrap my van, and then people are gonna notice me, and
yeah.
I'm just gonna spend a ton of money on Google, and then that 0 to 100, and is actually the most difficult part, because your cost of acquisition is so high. If you are thinking, well, I'm just going to do Google ads, well, you're going to fail. You're not going to make it. So you need to do the cheap advertising for that 0 to 100, and that'll start to support you when it's time to start spending the money down the road. And
build the database, do the hustle, as we call it, the hustle. Like then, I had guys. One guy I talked to. He stood at he started his carpet cleaning company. He stood out in front of Target, Home Depot, in the nice areas of town, in his uniform with a van in the driveway, handing out business cards until he got kicked out and he would go to another place. And he'd stand there all day long, and on the back of it was an offer, and the front was, hey, by the way, I own this carpet cleaning company. I just wanted to introduce myself. And some people would throw them out, other people, and he would do enough to build up a truck worth of work, to the point where he actually hired a guy to go out and cleaning, because it was his best form of acquisition to get started, right? It was directly to the public. And
I love those. People make fun of these guys in these old beat up vans, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, go for it. You know what I mean? That's the only way you're going to get the guy who goes and puts, $150K down on the biggest truck mount on the planet, wraps the damn thing. And those are the guys who are reselling.
And thinks that that's going to cause the phone to ring. Your equipment is going to cause the phone to ring.
Nobody cares what's in there. You could literally show up with a floor buffer and grow your business for pennies on the dollar. And I mean, literally, go buy an electric car and throw a floor buffer in the back and spend no money. And I mean, look at, heaven's best. Look at some of these huge brands out there. They're just cleaning with CRBs. And
Robert Harris started. I used to know Robert Harris back in the day. He started ChemDry in 1976, 77 with a rickshaw over his shoulder at the University in California. Again, with a buffer and a pop tank, like a Pepsi carbonated tank. And that was the start of the entire ChemDry franchise network. And he didn't even have a car. He had a rickshaw, and he would carry it from house to house to do his carpet.
I love those guys. I love seeing that. And I think there's a lot of times people, on the forums, they make fun of these people. And I'm just like, no, that's the correct way to go. It is. At least at first. I mean, eventually, sure, you're going to start to build up. And, we've got, $100,000 machines out in the warehouse, but that's not the place to begin, in my opinion. Focus on the sales. It doesn't matter how you do it. Pick one thing and do it. Just be the best at it and sell the living shit out of it, or at least believe. You know what I mean? At least believe.
That's gold. That's gold right there. Because so many guys seem to get the wrong idea, or there's these bro marketers that say, "Oh, you can live in Dubai and run a carpet cleaning company in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we'll just you just hire people remotely and it's just super easy." And like, this is all over the internet these days. And it's like, have you ever run a business?
Insane.
Did you ever?
That's insane.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I know.
Like, I can't even hire an accountant without being like, you are doing it wrong. Like, you have to, you got to be able to look at every step of the way and be able to know, because how do you know you hired someone who knows what the hell they're doing?
Exactly. No, it's, you got to be all in.
Yeah, at least a little bit. I'm not saying you have to like go to QuickBooks certified or go to accounting school, but you got to at least be able to read a spreadsheet. You got to at least be able to do all these things. You have to at least understand the marketing. You have to at least understand the equipment. Blah, 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 blah. Not, not necessarily like, I don't sit there and disassemble machines like I did 20 years ago, but nonetheless, like, I can, if I have to, so, I mean, it's more about like, I don't even think it's necessary for most people, but like, we have a mechanic in house now, but that's, get there, you don't have to worry about it. But until then, I mean, if you can't just do basic stuff on your machinery or your equipment or turn a
Yeah.
wrench, you're probably going to struggle a little bit. You know what I mean?
You're going to
That's
spend way too much money on, we used to
yeah,
change our own brakes on our vans, like the
yeah,
pads,
we
and
do too.
trying to eventually
Yeah.
learn how to do the rotors and bleed the lines. And oh my God, because it's like the van came back, the brakes seized, and I'm going, you're out tomorrow morning. I gotta get the route. So I'm the guy that stayed to midnight at the shop and fixed the van because they had to be back on the road tomorrow. Right. So
No,
yeah.
I got 2 grand on the board tomorrow. Let's go. I'm gonna figure out how to put a water pump in this thing. Yeah, so let's
Exactly. Back in the old days of the book where it wasn't the internet. You're
yeah,
literally
yeah.
got a grease covered book that you had to go to the right chapter to
Oh
figure out
yeah.
how to do that
No,
on
no,
the
no.
Astro van or the Ford Transit or whatever. Yeah, so,
I had an Astro van. I love that thing. That was a great little
yeah,
thing.
I used to love the Astro vans and the Safaris too. They're just the right size. Back in the day. But so where do we see the industry? I know you've shifted a couple things. We talked about sort of that shift to the like so less carpet, but you've gotten into some of those multifamily jobs and stuff like that, which you'd always avoided, and you saw a strategic position to move into that, which is great. We've got AI coming in, we got less carpet, we've got hardwood floors and vinyl tile cleanings and stuff like that. Our business will still exist. People still need things cleaned until the day that everybody buys an Atlas robot from Tesla and it can download how to clean carpets and how to do plumbing and how to do that stuff. We all have services to do. It is one of those sort of essential things. You got to keep your stuff clean. We kind of learned that through in COVID even more. But so where do you see the industry heading in the next couple of years? And where do you see Premier sort of tapping into some of the changes?
Well, I mean, I think to speak for the industry, in my opinion, we're seeing a little less carpet and a
Yep.
little more VCT. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we're going to completely run out of carpet anytime soon. I mean, it's a good product, especially in cold environments. I mean,
Yeah.
it keeps echoes down. It actually cleans the air. You can look this up.
Yep.
And so I love having that conversation with someone. I'm getting rid of all my carpet because of my allergies. I'm like, you're doing it wrong. But anyway,
Yep. Yep.
I'm sure most people here know that. But anyway, we are going to see that though. We're going to see more of these more versatile, water resistant because there's no waterproof products.
Yep.
And that's not necessarily a terrible thing. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a push towards some of these materials, but that doesn't mean those can't be cleaned too. We do quite a bit of VCT work, not a ton. Or not VCT, I'm sorry, LVP, excuse me, so many
Yep.
acronyms. We
Yeah.
do that. We do it, quite a bit. We also do hardwood floor cleaning, and we're starting to see a little less hardwood floors. I mean, we do, from the restoration side perspective of things, when we demo out a house from flood or fire or whatever, I can tell
Yeah.
you right now, if that house was 1,800 square foot carpet, by the time we're done putting the reconstruction together, it's 800 square foot carpet. And this is just
Yeah.
reality. Okay.
Yeah.
So if
Yep.
you're not willing to open eyes to the fact that, maybe we should be looking at ducts, maybe we should be looking at window cleaning. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of options out here. I did windows for 5 years. I just don't like ladders. So I stopped doing it. I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, nowadays you don't
Yep.
even have to do that. Now there's like water fed pole systems, but this was 20
Yeah.
years ago when I did windows.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot you can do outside of that you can present to that same customer who may be transitioning from not having as much carpet, right? So like
Yep.
20 years ago, I would see your average house had a living room, dining room, 3 bedrooms, and a staircase. $300 cleaning all day, every day, right? Just 20 years ago. Nowadays, it's 3 bedrooms, maybe the staircase, right?
Yep.
Where'd the living room, dining
Yep.
room go? And what's the dirtiest room in the house? It's the living room, dining room. Okay, so I'm just saying we have to be a little bit realistic about that. So, but
Yep.
at the same time, we're going to possibly see a little bit less introduction to the market because people aren't seeing as much carpet around. So why would people want to jump into a business that they don't see as much carpet in, right? So
Fair
that
enough.
should reduce itself in a sense because we're going to start to see some of these people who are trying to jump in at these very expensive marketing issues and very expensive equipment to try to clean a very small amount of an item that there's already people out there who know how to do it. I don't think we're going to see as much jumping
Yeah.
into the market as we did 5-10 years ago. I think we're going to see a lot less. So I'm not saying carpet's not going to exist anymore. I just think if you diversify is not going to be a bad idea. I guess is
Yeah.
the way.
And again, area rugs, another one as well. When people pick up their
Oh
carpets,
yeah, we do
they
ton of
then all
rugs.
of a sudden they don't like the hard floor. They put area rugs down. Now we got Lisa Wagner and Mark and the whole,
Yep.
learn how
No.
to clean area, or IICRC, learn how to clean area rugs properly and charge your $3, $4, $5, $6, $7 a square foot if you follow Dusty Roberts or whatever, or wherever you fit in the synthetic ones and a little bit less, but people
We do a lot
honor
of.
and respect their area rugs a lot more than they ever cared about their carpets.
Yeah, we do. We have a wash floor here, and
Yep.
we go through a couple of hundred rugs a month.
Yep.
And but I will say this for someone, because I've seen people do this. They're one truck guys, and they
Yeah.
board off their 2-car garage and start to run a wash floor out of there.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You're better off connecting with someone who's got a legit facility.
Yep.
You tack on a couple of bucks a square foot. You don't have to worry about the liability. Your wife's not going to hate your guts because your house smells like wool
Yeah.
all the time. Like it's terrible. It's awful. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Those little fold-up pits. I mean, they're okay, but it's there are better things you can do with that money and that space.
I agree. I think you need a
beginning.
shop, a
In the
centrifuge,
beginning.
like if you can, like and all the
Yeah,
things to do right, a good rack system and
yeah.
dehumidifiers and air movers, and that doesn't fit in a garage well.
Down the
So,
road. Down the road. Do it down the
yeah,
road. It's
yeah.
not.
Do tile and grout for now. That's an easy add-on. Things like that, bathroom
Yeah,
tiles and
exactly.
ceiling, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We're doing a 2.4 and maybe 200,000 in area rugs.
Yep.
If that tells
Yep.
you something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why
Exactly.
would I dedicate all this money in time if I'm only doing 20,000 or $100,000 a year to bring in an
Yep.
extra 10,000, right? It's
No.
not.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
value's not there. And so, but when you got a big, when you have enough space and a little more time, that's a great thing to do. And I would definitely take some lessons though, because boy, that's easy to make an expensive mistake on. Those
Yeah.
are.
And being method agnostic, you kind of mentioned that as well. So like if you are just all in a bag of chips, it has to be truck mount, well then you miss the whole ability to do encapsulation maintenance on
Oh
commercial
yeah.
places and stuff like that. And so if you have maybe one of the ways to expand is beyond your method, like add other maintenance options and stuff like that. So you can go to the hotel and say, hey, you guys might use your whatever machine down the hallways, your Malay or whatever that you bought, and you've trained one guy on it and he's laid off right now. But we can come in between those cleanings and do like a Cymex machine down the hallways and things like that and help out. Like there's ways that you can get into contracts and get into jobs. And then I always used to say like condos and stuff like that, get in to do the hallways. Your actual goal there is to have every single one of the residents of the condo building become customers of yours. So if the new condo corp comes in or whatever, they hire a new president of the board and he wants to be all fancy and say, I'm going to get tenders for all of our quotes again and stuff like that. And you get kicked out. That's fine. I also still get $80,000 a year from all of the residents of these two buildings because we're here and hey, while we're in the building cleaning, would you like us to come in and clean your unit? There's a bit of a break. And you can do good marketing to the people that are at the commercial place. So accounting office, everybody gets a tent card saying you are now get employee rewards with our company. Learn about us, kind of idea. Leave a couple of mints behind as well. Just make friends. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So, every job should be thought of as a way to how do I capitalize, keep this person and get more like them from around them, their friends, whatever. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great opportunity. I like the way you put that because, we try to. We have some buildings that we work at. We do not a ton of commercial. Honestly, I wish we did more. We did about 7,000 residential homes, or I think it was 6,500 residential homes and about 500
Yep.
commercial. So it's less than 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And we know this, and because, honestly, there's just more houses. If you walk down the street, it means there are more houses, there are more commercial, right? And then, also you're battling against the janitorial firms that have
Yeah.
they figured out, hey, what's this Cymex thing? Oh, I can charge to do this, and so, that's like it's a lawnmower for carpet. And so anyway, they kind of figured that out, and they're not dealing with these big stupid walk behind portables as much as we used to.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that market, we're starting to see a lot of competition and price competition. So, and when I'll talk to someone about this, they'll be like, oh, well, if I don't get my 30 to 50 cents a square foot, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, okay, well, what if it's a 10,000 square foot building? You're like, you need to get $5,000 for that. It's only going to take you like 4 hours with a Cymex. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's so easy.
So
I
can we
mean,
just do
you
like
with two guys.
$200 an hour, man hours, and we're
Yeah,
good
I
to
mean,
go?
just
Like have a
figure out.
know your numbers, have a rate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
not that important. Like I used to
Yeah.
talk to guys on the forums, like Clean Quip and these guys, and they were like, "Oh man,
Yeah.
I charged $1.50 for carpet cleaning back in 1982." I was like, "Cool. You also had a drag wand. How long did it take to do it? Like, like
Yeah.
I could do that same house that took you all day in like an hour. Like, yeah, of course the
Yes.
price is going to go down, and there's more of us here too. It's supply and
Yeah.
demand, and the product now is faster and better." And
Yeah.
so people get obsessed with how much they're charging per square foot or how much they're charging per room, and just try to figure out what it takes to make money. Especially
Yeah.
when you're looking at commercial. Residential, that's a little bit of a different animal. But if you
Yeah.
want to land, 50,000 square foot facilities, trust me, plopping a 30 cent a square foot estimate there, you're not going to get
You're not
it.
getting it at all. No.
They're
So
bidding that against like 10 other people. Like, don't even
yeah.
consider it. Like your overhead is nothing. You paid the Cymex off the first 5 jobs you did with the damn thing, and then
Yeah.
your end cap product is like maybe at like 2 cents a square foot tops.
Yeah. And
So
your technicians, as you even said, your technicians can rattle through these fast, even on the multifamily ones, stuff like that.
oh,
Where
yeah,
again, it sucks, but if they're still making the same rate, the hourly rate, and their commission, their pay is real, they should have no issue with it. It's just a different job for them. I'm going to give you a couple of these apartments, a couple of these large areas, and you're going to still make your same dollar per hour. So, you know, teaching them that, it's like, why not have the ability to expand into those areas? So yeah.
yeah. Well, and learn your averages, know your numbers, right? Like if I'm
Yeah.
doing a cubicle farm that's super dirty, how long does
Yeah.
that take versus gigantic ballroom that's completely empty, right?
Yeah.
Gigantic ballroom, you can haul through that thing. Like, I mean, if
Yes.
you're not cleaning 5 to 10,000 square foot an hour with a couple of guys, you are doing it wrong.
Well,
Like
I built a calculator. I'm sure you got one too. I built a calculator
yeah.
decades ago now in Excel that
Wait,
was,
wait,
4 different levels of dirty, medium, bad, and nasty kind of idea, square
yep.
footage wise, because we had already got our numbers by that point. Every time we did a job, I knew the square foot, how long it was taking, how much product we went through. I just kept track of that stuff because I'm a business owner, not just a carpet cleaner. So I wanted to know the math. Again, marketing creates operations, operations solve that, and you need to know data and finance and stuff like that. So you know that numbers, and now all of a sudden you know your production rates. Now you know how much product you're going to go through and how much the product costs. You can build that into a spreadsheet. Back in the day, you had to figure out how to do it. Nowadays, you can probably go into you go into one of the AI tools like Manus or something like that and say, build me a spreadsheet that does this, and here's the variables, and have it build out, Copilot in Excel, but understand your numbers so that when you go to quote, you've got a measurement, roughly how many 1,000 square feet per hour you can produce when it's wide open and light cleaning versus very dense and dirty cleaning, and how much pre-spray you might need and stuff like that. You just plug all your numbers in, want your hourly rate. Here's your bid price, and
Yeah.
you're going to
And
realize it's shockingly lower than you thought it was going to be.
yeah, if you can beat it, beat it. But I mean, I think that sometimes you get a lot of disgruntledness around, like, oh, these janitorial guys are doing it for nothing, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it's because they're just trying to charge by the hour.
Yeah.
They're doing a
Yeah.
time and
And they
material.
want to keep the contract. They want it because they're
Yeah,
making 50,000 a year on the contract.
they're
Do
already
they
in
really
there.
care if the carpet cleaning costs 1,000 or 3,000? It's the 50,000 a year contract they're keeping,
Yeah,
right? So yeah.
exactly. They don't care.
So part of it. So well, this is a great conversation. Well, I always like to end with a couple little things, like a sort of a reflection and advice. So at what moment did you reflect back and went, and what did you like? Do you remember a moment where you looked at everything? You walked into the shop one day, you did something and you went, holy crap, I built this, right? Do you remember the day that reflected happened?
I mean, I think when we bought our warehouse that we're in, that was about 5 years ago. And,
Mhm.
prior to that, I was renting a slot that was like 3,000 square feet. And then, which I was ridiculous. You'd be surprised how many vans I was able to get in there. But our office was 100 square feet. And it was me and
Yeah,
two
yeah,
other people in there. And then, so we bought this building. It's about 10,000 square feet. We've got so much more room, and it's already full. But anyway, that's not the
yeah,
point. But kind of once we finished remodeling it and getting here, and like I went out of the country for about a month.
yeah,
Didn't hear from anybody, and When I
Which is
came
a
back,
great moment when the
yeah,
business runs and you're not involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
I came back about a month later and everything was still here, so the building didn't burn down. I mean, obviously there's always these little whatevers, but uh, yeah, I mean that was a pretty big thing, and right now we're trying to do the same thing again with the restoration. We're trying to do the same thing with the duct cleaning, and we've been stepping into kind of nearby markets too, kind of
Yeah.
widening our belt a little bit, slowly but surely, because the people don't see how much the cost of that travel is. It's huge, and so we're
Yeah.
trying to kind of squish our way out before we kind of brick and mortar our way out.
Yep.
And then, but those have been the big moments for me, I guess. I think,
Cool.
I mean, like when you bought your 15th or 20th vehicle or whatever, and you're just like,
Yeah.
God, I'm so sick of buying cars. It's like, it's not exciting. It's not exciting
First,
anymore.
first world problems, growth problems. I'm so sick of having to grow so much bigger. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like it's like whatever. And so, that's kind of becomes a little bit, and the things you worry about more are very different. And,
yeah,
so, like honestly, one of the best things we did was buy this building. Obviously, it was prior to all this gigantic explosion in real estate in my city.
yeah,
So I got a very good price on it, but this has been a very excellent investment. And
yeah,
so I always highly recommend that to anybody. It's like McDonald's, they have the kind of, when he's interviewed, like, how do you feel about being the biggest cheeseburger salesman in the world? He says, we're not the biggest cheeseburger salesman, we're the biggest owner of real estate,
real estate.
of
Yeah,
the highest quality corners in the world. So,
yeah,
that those all play together. Don't play just one game, play a lot of games. And,
yeah.
so, yeah, that's all
Have
I
an
have.
exit strategy in mind as well. And that's where we're going, like, well, parting
Yeah.
wisdom for new cleaners or guys that maybe been at it 5 or 10 years, but still just sort of in big areas, but just struggling, haven't really put all the pieces together, kind of don't really, they still think they're sort of a carpet cleaner, and then everything else comes second. If they have time at the end of the day or the end of the week or
Yeah.
whatever, they'll
Yeah,
do the
definitely.
rest later. What would be some parting wisdom on, people that get caught in that trap, or maybe start off to give them the right mindset to understand what that they're in business first. The industry is just the choice kind of
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. I mean, I think you mentioned I was on Clean Quip. I was in all these forums back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, and I just stopped. You'll notice there's kind of like this line where I just stopped, and
You just disappeared. Yeah.
yeah, I just did, and you'll see that with pretty much anyone who's really successful in this industry. They're not really there, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Unless they're there to sell you something. But the ones that are really successful, they're not on there talking about truck mounts and what's the best pre-spray, and you
Yeah.
know, th- they're focused on growth and sales and motivating and all
Yeah.
these other things that are the real meat and potatoes, right? So
Yeah.
yes, be excellent at what you do, but don't let that take over your ability to work on the business. Don't get
Yeah.
too stuck in it and forget that maybe, I mean, I am, don't get me wrong, those first few years, I mean, you're working 8 to 10 hours a day, you're pissing your wife off because you're working all summer, you're not taking vacations, you're not seeing the kids as much. I
Yeah.
get that, right? So, but once you get to that point where there's enough room to wiggle, learn to trust other people and
Yeah.
start delegating and start working on it, not in it. And just
Yeah.
don't blow all the money hiring people. Don't get me wrong. I've seen plenty of
Yeah.
people make, too strong of a decision there, but, start with somebody young. You don't need like an experienced dude that's $180,000 a year. You need somebody who's going to love to learn from you and who's going to appreciate you. And then you're going to
Yeah.
push that person up as you push yourself up. You're going to bring all these
Yeah.
people with you and be proud of that. That's a great thing to do. There's nothing wrong with bringing a lot of people with you. I mean, if everybody that works for me is making 100K a year, they've got health insurance, they're buying houses, they got new cars, I am the
Yeah.
happiest man alive.
Yeah, and even
That's
if some of them say, you know what, I'm moving to another state, I'm moving out, and I'm going to open up my own business. Thank you for giving me the vision. You're going, dude, stay in touch, right? Or
absolutely.
gal, stay in
I
touch. Like that's, yeah,
constantly talk to anybody who doesn't work here anymore unless
yeah,
they did something so incredibly stupid. We are
yeah,
constantly in communication. So yeah,
yeah.
don't burn those bridges. It's not a bad thing.
No, I appreciate that because yeah, you're still like that sales. Like always, like understand, keep your thumb on the sales and marketing of the business because that's the growth. You don't need to be in it when you're on it. Stay consistent. Never outgrow the hustle. We talked about that as well. It's like just make sure that you understand what your main thing is and should be that propels the business forward. And it's not necessarily the $35 an hour carpet cleaning technician that you could hire to do the job, because you're moving the ball forward. You're creating the momentum. You're at that point where you have to straddle, and then finally you can let this leg out of that, get out of the van and do this a little bit more, and maybe back in on certain days, but you've got a lot more push.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
happens.
exactly. There's that game. Yeah. Yeah, you talked about the 2-truck, and then the 3-truck is a really interesting moment. And then you go over the hump. Like we know those moments in the business, depending on your price points and stuff like that. So,
So I've always got the 3-truckish, 4-truck. That's kind of like, I call it the hostage period, where your employees hold you hostage because there's not enough people for you to fire someone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you got a full schedule tomorrow. And he just keeps not showing up to work or whatever he's doing. But you can't fire him because you don't have anybody to replace him. It's going to take too long. And so you're not big enough to have the flexibility to move, and so you're held hostage by your employees. That's one of the more
that is a real moment, and it's like you've got to. It's worth leapfrogging over, but it's a real moment. And one of the ways to leapfrog a little bit faster is, can you find a couple of these businesses to acquire and kind of do a jump quick? Because then you can kind of get that. You don't get stuck in that period for a period. I got stuck in that period. We talked about that. I had guys that were great technicians to start. Eventually you're knocking at their door and pulling them out of bed and putting them in the van and driving them to work because, they got into partying a little too hard and they weren't in until 2 or 3 in the morning, and they still had to show up at
jail.
Yeah, exactly. And all that. So,
I've done that a bunch
this has been gold, man. I really appreciate it. Hope folks understand what scaling a business actually looks like. A lot of guys do get stuck. A lot of guys, we talked about it. It's like, it's over, like it's less than 1% that scale beyond $1 million. And even if you only want to hit $500,000 and a couple trucks on the road, and you don't have to be the guy in the truck and stuff like that, you've got to be a student of the game. You've got to be, listening to podcasts, reading books, you got to learning new things, being contrarian and stuff like that, and working on the skills that you don't have that will be needed for the next level. Buy your buildings, create investments, figure out your legacy, all that kind of stuff as well. So definitely anybody who's listening to that, who wants to reach out to Robert, who's like, again, in the local marketplace, and understand Premier is just the premium cleaning service there. We'll have in the show notes links to the website and all that kind of stuff. But I really appreciate you having on. And if anybody pings us with questions, we usually get on Spotify and a couple other places people ask questions of our guests. I will definitely share them with you to go back and forth on as well, so that you can pop a few answers back to us if we get those in the loop. But I think this is a golden episode, because I want people to open their brains up to understanding it's not luck. It is a little bit of luck, but it's a dedicated effort and putting in the work and letting and aiming at the right things at the and moving yourself forward, and that shows up in happy customers, happy employees, and great growth. And that's ultimately the goal, because we're in trying times. We don't know what's going to happen. We're done quantitative easing for now, so there isn't money printers necessarily right now. We got markets, and we got AIs, and we got all this stuff, and we just got to keep pushing forward and growing our business and our reputation in the marketplace, so that regardless of what shakes out, we're the one left standing and still growing our business. So appreciate it. I plan to stay in touch, dude. I want to see what happens next and where you go, and you go wider, go deeper, go more services, buy more businesses, what you do next. So, but I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast today and helping all of the people that follow this kind of get a bigger vision of where they should be going. So.
Yeah, well, my pleasure, John, and just keep hustling. So if you ever stop, that's when you shrink. That's it.
Absolutely agree with you.
Keep going. So,
yeah.
All right.
Amen, brother. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good day.